وهم ضحايا كما نحن ضحايا وضحايا الإرهاب. فبس
Can we just check if there may be anyone outside the theatre that is just waiting outside? We just ask them to gently come in. And just some housekeeping rules before we do commence. If anyone has any mobile phones, if they could put them on silent or turn them off, so we can focus not only our minds but also our hearts in this important space and moment to be able to exchange ideas, feelings, emotions, and stories of the present and the past, and building and creating our future together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise is due to God, the sustainer of the universe. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. And prayers and salutations be upon the liege Lord of all of humanity and the greatest of the messengers and the rest of the prophets and messengers that God has sent. I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, blessings and mercy of God be upon you all this afternoon. We gather here to mark an important event and to exchange ideas on a significant topic and reality, and that is Islam's honouring the indigenous peoples, and the Prophet Muhammad's peace and blessings of God be upon him, his covenants and treaties that he entered into with the people around him from different walks of life and different backgrounds. Today is a day in which we welcome our keynote speaker and internationally acclaimed scholar and official guest of not only the Muslim community, not only the mosques and Islamic centers, but rather the entire society within this land that we know as Australia. For we give recognition and acknowledgement to the Australian government for granting him a quick and easy entry into Australia, and recognizing the importance of people who hold peace, compassion, mercy in their speech, in their actions, in their attributes, and in their interactions, and being able to provide that as a means to foster peace and harmony within this land we all call home. I'll be your Master of Ceremonies today. My name is Ahmed Abdul, and on behalf of Shifa Institute, we would formally extend our appreciation and acknowledgement to everyone that came and took time out of their busy schedules today to attend and to be involved in this important conversation. I would like to also acknowledge our special guests that we have today, and of course everyone is special, but in particular those who will be speaking today. But before I do and introduce the program for today, I'd like to, with all genuineness, openness and sincerity, ask Charlene McKenzie, OAM, who is a woman from the Wiradjuri people and also the Managing Director of the Alawar Aboriginal Corporation, to do that which they have done for tens of thousands of years, and that is to acknowledge country and to acknowledge those who have come here to be on this land which the Indigenous and First Nations people have been taking care of as custodians, as people who have been given the responsibility and honor to take care of this land. And so I'd like to ask her to officially open today. Thank you, Charlene.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we're gathered on, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. Pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I would like to pay respects to my elders, as I always do, who are from the Wiradjuri Nation, which is the central western tablelands of New South Wales. I would like to acknowledge the special guests that are here today. Also, the effort that's been put into having this conversation means a lot to my people. So I hope that we can enjoy each other's company and have some really good discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene, for your acknowledgement to country and your important words. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and family, today, Islam's honouring Indigenous people and the Prophet Muhammad's covenants and treaties, peace be upon him, is the topic of discussion. And as part of our program today, we have the honour of also being in the presence of His Eminence the Grand Mufti of Australia and the Chairman of the Australian Fatwa Council, Dr. Ibrahim Abu Muhammad, who will be speaking on the importance of providing benefit to society and all elements within society, and the importance of being in the service of others. So I'd like to acknowledge His Eminence's presence here today. In addition today, we also have from Abu Hanifa Institute, Imam Wissam Sharqawi, who will be presenting a trailer on some of the great work that he has done from a historical account and perspective on the interactions between Muslim peoples and the Indigenous people within this land before the arrival of Europeans. We also have today Dr. John Yahya Hunter from the Jarrara Aboriginal Education Centre in Mount Druitt. We're blessed to have Dr. John Yahya present with us today on his experience, positive models of engagement with Indigenous youth. Sometimes we think we know the code or the protocol of engagement and we might impose it on others, but how in need we are as a people to be able to hear from those who are on the ground, who are doing the work, who are making those lasting and effective connections in society. And of course, we have our international guest speaker, and that is Habib Muhammad bin Abdullah bin Ali al-Aydarus, who is an imam and a sheikh, a religious scholar from the Muslim community, and having travelled all the way from the southern valley of Hadramaut in the land of Yemen, a land that is renowned for historically its richness, but not only its richness in worldly material possessions and natural resources and abundant rain, but also its deeply rooted spirituality within the Islamic tradition. Habib Muhammad comes from a prophetic lineage. He is a descendant, a direct descendant of the man who Muslims all around the world, all 2 billion of them, the latest statistics say that there are 8 billion human beings on the surface of the earth. 1 in 5 are Muslim, and see this man Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be upon him, as the ultimate exemplar and role model. Today, we have Habib Muhammad, who is a direct descendant of that man, Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. He comes from an Islamic seminary in Yemen known as Dar al-Mustafa for Islamic Sciences, which continues to gather people from all walks of life, very multicultural in its nature, people from Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, the United States, Europe, England, all around the world coming together within that umbrella body in order to learn the true essential meanings of what it is to be a Muslim in this age. Today we also have who will be giving a vote of thanks and appreciation and who was instrumental in bringing the various elements of today's event together. The Chief Executive Officer of the Muslim Women Australia National Organisation, Hajjamaha Krayam Abdul OAM, who, with full genuineness and sincerity and without desire for recognition in the background, instrumental in bringing all of this together. And since I think they are still in question time at the moment, probably another 22 minutes before we get indication that they will be released from their chamber and their very ethical and respectful discussions and interchanges, we will be receiving the host for today's event, and that is the Honourable Jihad Deeb MP, Member for Bankstown, Minister for Customer Service and Digital Government, Minister for Emergency Services, Minister for Youth Justice, who will give some concluding remarks. That's an overview of this afternoon's program, so we hope to be able to benefit from the time that we have together and the interactions and the various stories and exchanges that will occur. At this point, I'd like to ask our first official speaker, His Eminence, the Grand Mufti of Australia, to perhaps come forward, and wherever he feels comfortable, whether it be to the table and to sit down, that might be the more comfortable position, because I think someone's going to have to translate for him, and I think that may be myself. So he'll be speaking to us on the importance of providing benefit and being in the service of all people, and it's always a pleasure to listen to His Eminence speak, because you cannot only listen with your ears, but you actually have to open up your mind and your heart to tune into the same frequency. So I hand over the mic to His Eminence, and I ask him also just to go easy in the length and duration of his delivery, such that the poor translator doesn't have too much of a difficult job keeping up. And our time allocation, God willing, inshallah, is 15 minutes, 20 minutes with translation for this session. 20 دقيقة إن شاء الله لكلمتكم المحترمة سماحة المفتي، ونترجم لكم كذلك عندكم.
جزاك الله خير، الله يحفظك ويبارك فيك. أنا أستعمل ده ولا ده؟ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
هذا المايك ممكن تفتح هذا الكبير.
ده؟
أيوه.
أوكي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على خاتم الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي الأمين، وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم إنا نتوسل بك إليك ولا أعز منك عليك، أن تجعل هذا اللقاء خالصا لوجهك الكريم. اللهم ما كان لك فتقبله منا، وما كان حظ نفوسنا فتوله عنا، واجعله لك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. السادة والسيدات، يسعدني أن أكون بينكم في هذه الظهيرة المباركة وبصحبة مولانا الشيخ محمد بن علي بن عبد الله العيدروس، الذي قدم إلينا من أرض الحكمة من اليمن، وتجشم مشقات السفر كما كان يفعل جده صلى الله عليه وسلم حين كان يذهب إلى القبائل ويدعوهم.
After praising God, the sustainer of the worlds, sending peace and blessings on the Prophet Muhammad, and asking the help, support and assistance of Allah to grant sincerity and genuineness in the presentation that he is to deliver before us. He said, "It gives me great honor to be amongst you this afternoon in this amazing audience, amongst amazing people, and in particular for us to be receiving our special guest who has travelled all the way from Yemen to arrive into Sydney in Australia, going through all the difficulties and the hardships of travel, somewhat similar to the challenges and the difficulties that his great-grandfather also experienced, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be upon him, when he would leave his hometown and he would go and travel to visit the various tribes around him in order to propagate the true deen and the true way of life of Islam.
ونحن في هذا اليوم أهل حظوة. الرجل يحمل إلينا عبق النبوة وعبير الرسالة، ويحمل إلينا وفدا مرافقا له طاهر الأنفاس مبارك الخطوة. أدعو الله أن يكون لهم أثر في قلوب أهل هذا البلد، كل من أقبل عليهم وكل من سمع منهم أو سمع عنهم. ويسعدني أيضا أن تكون المناسبة هي مساندة لأصحاب حق، وما يجوز أبدا أن نحدث الناس عن مجد السماء بينما ندير لهم ظهورنا حين يتعرضون لأزمة أو حين تضيع حقوقهم. فما يجوز لمن ينتسبون إلى الله إلا أن يكونوا سندا لكل صاحب حق. ولذلك نحن هنا لنبدأ بنعم لأصحاب الأرض الحقيقيين، ونشكرهم على استضافتهم لنا وعلى إيثارهم لوجودنا بينهم.
And we're also blessed and grateful that our special guest, Habib Muhammad, is here present amongst us, not only coming from the land of hikmah and wisdom that is Yemen, but also bringing with him the exhalations of prophetic wisdom, mercy, and compassion, and also those who accompany him in the various sessions and events. He said, we ask Allah to allow their presence and to allow their movements and to allow their speech to be a means of drawing people's hearts nearer to Allah. And also, as people who've deeply connected to faith, it's not enough for us simply to talk to people about the glorious magnificence of heavenly revelations and dispensations, and then simply to turn our backs away from the people who are in need of our support. And so today also is a symbolic and important moment in which we share the struggles, the difficulties and the hardships, and we come together as a community to say, yes, we are here to be in support and to assist and to see what is it that we can do to aid your cause.
وثالث أبعاد الحظوة في هذه الظهيرة المباركة هو بعد القرب منكم والوجود بينكم، أصحاب الرقائق، أصحاب الوجدان العالي، وبين زملائي الشيخ أحمد والشيخ وسيم. وقد تشرفت اليوم بأن أكون تلميذا بين يدي الشيخ al-Aydarus. وأدخل في الموضوع. ديننا دين الحق فيه فوق القوة، والعدل فوق الخصومة، وإنسانية الإنسان فوق كل اعتبار. هذه هي الحقيقة الأولى.
So I also am honored to be amongst you and also to be near you and close to you in our discussions. And the first of the points that I would like to convey is three, in fact, that he mentioned, and I'll ask him to repeat them.
النقاط الثلاث، الأبعاد الثلاثة.
نعم.
البعد الأول وجود الشيخ بيننا، والبعد الثاني يعني الحظوة والحضور، والبعد الثالث وجودي بينكم. آخر نقطة الحق فوق القوة والعدل فوق الخصومة وإنسانية الإنسان فوق كل اعتبار.
So first of all, he said that justice will always be dominating and supersede force and coercion.
الحق فوق القوة والعدل فوق الخصومة. العدل.
And also justice and fairness will always advance and supersede argumentation or conflict.
إنسانية الإنسان فوق كل اعتبار.
And then we also have the humanity of human beings that is always going to be the first of the priorities in our interactions.
هذه هي الحقيقة الأولى.
This is the first reality.
الحقيقة الثانية أن الله جل جلاله خلق الناس جميعاً من أصل واحد.
The second reality is that Allah created all human beings from one origin.
فنحن جميعاً أبناء البشر من لدن آدم وإلى قيام الساعة ننتمي إلى أب واحد هو آدم.
So all of us from the time of the first of human beings through his descendants to the end, we all trace our roots back to one father, and that is Adam.
وكانت الزوجة حواء خلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء.
And Allah created from Adam his wife and companion Hawa or Eve, and from them produced great offspring.
ثم أمرنا أن نتراحم، وما لم نتراحم دينا لوجب علينا أن نتراحم نسبا وصهرا. واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام.
And Allah has also instructed us to be merciful to one another, and if we don't show mercy because of the similarity of our religions, then we should at least show mercy because of our connectedness as being one human race.
الحقيقة الثالثة أن الله ليس لديه أزمة في الخلق، ليس لديه اسطمبة واحدة عشان يخلق بها المخلوقات من نسخة واحدة، يزيد في الخلق ما يشاء. خلقنا من أصل واحد ونوع في مواهبنا، في طباعنا، في خصائصنا، في ألواننا، في أشكالنا، في لغاتنا، حتى في هممنا وعزائمنا، وفي أرزاقنا أيضا.
The other reality that we reflect upon is that Allah didn't create us all in one mold as human beings. In fact, we differ in our languages, in our races, in our abilities, in our capacities, in our skills, and all of these matters.
وكان التعدد في الخلق آية من آيات الله في الكون، ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم.
And the variety that we find in human creation and the rest of the universe is one of the great magnificent signs of the Creator, because this, as Allah says in the Quran, this variety in creation is from the signs of God.
ومن ثم نقرر هنا أن التعددية الثقافية والحضارية والدينية ليست خياراً إنسانياً يقبله الإنسان أو يرفضه، وإنما هي سنة كونية وقانون ثابت من قوانين الوجود.
And so we repeat here today that multiculturalism, the variety of different people's cultures and backgrounds coming together to interact, this is not something that is left to human choice, but rather this is something that is necessary for humans to sustain themselves within civilization.
ورتب على هذا التعدد أن يكون هناك تعاون في القواسم المشتركة، لأننا جميعا أبناء أب واحد، ولأننا جميعا من أصل واحد، ولأننا جميعا ننتمي إلى الإنسانية. لذلك طالبنا، جعلنا شعوبا وقبائل، طالبنا أن نتعارف وأن نتعاون. جعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا. وكان التمييز والتفرد لا بالجنس ولا باللون ولا بما تملك من ماديات، وإنما كان التميز والتفرد قانونا عاما يستطيع كل إنسان أن يسعى إليه. إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم.
And in our variety of backgrounds, ethnicities, cultures, languages, tribes, the way in which we will have facilitated our positive interaction is coming to know one another. As Allah says, the reason for His creating us in these different nations and tribes is in order for us to know one another. And the way that human beings will advance over others, God doesn't mention that it's because of your color of your skin or your language or your race or your background, but rather something that all people can compete in, and that is God consciousness. Those who are most God conscious, then they are the most honorable of people.
والنتيجة أيها الإخوة والأخوات، النتيجة أننا جميعا باختلاف أدياننا يمكن أن نتعايش في مكان واحد. يمكن أن يكون لك دين، ويمكن أن لا يكون لك دين. يمكن أن تكون يهوديا، يمكن أن تكون مسيحيا، يمكن أن تكون بوذيا، يمكن أن تكون على أي دين، مسلما، يمكن أن تكون على أي دين. لكن كانت عناية السماء بأهل الأرض أعظم وأجل من كل قوانين الأرض. كانت عناية الله بالبشر أعظم وأجل من أعلى ما وصل إليه فكر البشر. كان هناك قاعدة ذهبية وقانون لا يمكن أن ترقى إليه البشرية، بأن جعل العقائد محميات طبيعية لا يجوز اقتحامها على أصحابها مهما اختلفت معه، حتى ولو كانت باطلة. وكأن الله مش وكأن، ولأن الله يعلم أن المجتمع الواحد يمكن أن تتعدد فيه الأجناس، يمكن أن تتعدد فيه اللغات، يمكن أن تتعدد فيه الألوان، ولذلك سن لنا هذا القانون الذهبي وقال: إياك أن تتدخل في اللحمة الحضارية والنسيج الاجتماعي للمجتمع. إياك أن تخرق هذه القاعدة. وكانت القاعدة عجيبة، قاعدة عجيبة وغريبة. حماية مطلقة. لما؟ لأن العقائد مغلفة بالعواطف، والعواطف عواصف، وأحيانا قواصف، وأحيانا نواسف. ولذلك جاء النص الكريم في سورة الأنعام إنه العقائد خليها لوحدها، خليها بعيد، بلاش نطرحها للنقاش والصراعات، بلاش تدخل في قائمة الصراعات. ولو شاء ربك لجعل الناس أمة واحدة ولا يزالون مختلفين إلا من رحم ربك ولذلك خلقهم.
With our various beliefs and frameworks of looking at life, the common factor that unites all people's interactions is one where, although we think that we are concerned with one another's welfare and well-being, the heavens, Allah, is even more concerned with our well-being as human beings and our honourable, respectful interactions, such that the belief systems must be protected and preserved, such that no human being oversteps their mark or harms another person because of their ideology or because of their belief or because of their background. And I'd just like to acknowledge the Honourable Jihad Deeb as well, who has just entered. Habib Mohammed is here. You can take a seat there, Jihad, from أول وزير مسلم في ولاية نيو ساوث ويلز حبيب جهاد.
Sorry.
And so Islam comes to protect people's beliefs within society, even if some people think that they are not well-grounded or are false beliefs.
أيها الأخوة والأخوات، أشكركم جميعا. جئنا من أجل نعم، وسنستمر من أجل نعم، وسنقول نعم، وسيقول معنا الشجر والحجر والبشر نعم لكل صاحب حق ليحظى بحق. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
And His Eminence ended and concluded that we are people whose hearts are open. We're always people who are open in listening and saying yes to everything that is going to aid in supporting people's cause and supporting people's mission and being in their assistance and advocating on their behalf, us and the trees and the creatures of God, all doing that which is going to be the most appropriate and beneficial. We thank His Eminence Dr. Ibrahim Al Muhammad, the Grand Mufti of Australia, for his opening words today. And I'd like to now ask Imam Wissam Shafawi to present his small trailer that we have of before 1770, and he's also going to say a few words, I think, to that before we move to the next part of our program. Yeah, sure. We'll just turn the cameras away from you. Yeah. So while we're filming, not while we're filming, while we're showing the film, because this trailer hasn't appeared anywhere on public television and screens, we're going to turn our cameras to the side, the live stream and the recorded cameras, and we're going to ensure that it does not appear on the screens. So that's why you're just going to probably see a blank wall whilst the small trailer is going to be shown there. 70. And of course, bringing to the forefront the reality of connection and relationship, and which in fact extends far beyond the last 250 years. And in fact, when we trace that interaction between Indigenous peoples, First Nations peoples in this land, and the Macassans that traded with them and recognised and acknowledged their sovereignty of land here, it poses the question, what was the motivation behind those Muslims 500 years ago, basing their interactions with the Indigenous people here? What was it that drove them? What was it that guided them? What was it that codified their dealings? And in fact, the answer to that is present with us today. And that answer traces the connection and the travel and journey in order for us to understand and realize that the presence of the religion of Islam within Southeast Asia would not have occurred were it not for some 9 scholarly, deeply faithful men from the land of Yemen, who were Muslims and traded with people with dignity and honor, always being ready to give rather than to take, to offer rather than to receive, and to show the magnanimity and generosity of Islam, which today, this afternoon, we have a great grandson of the one who brought Islam not only to Arabia, but to the east and to the west. For the grandfather of Habib Muhammad today was the one who was known to have said, "I was sent to all of humanity in its entirety." So that's the context of today. That's the missing link that all human beings within this land of Australia actually need to start exploring. And what a great opportunity it is for us to be listening in a few moments to the address of Habib Muhammad, who will speak on is how Islam has honoured Indigenous peoples. But before I introduce him, I'd like to go to our other special guest today, who will give a few words, and that is Dr. John Yahya Hunter. I'd like to ask Dr. John to come forward from the Jarrara Aboriginal Education Centre in Mount Druitt, wherever you feel comfortable to speak from. And he's going to be talking to us about his lived experience of best means models of engaging, in particular, not only with the Indigenous community, but more particularly the younger people within the Indigenous community. Thank you, Dr. John.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
For us to speak to others, my elders always taught us to make a recognition and acknowledgement. And that come from our natural law, the law from our ancestors that's been given to us by the great creator, Allah, which we call Bami. So I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people and the Eora people of place. I'd also like to acknowledge the Aboriginal communities within the city, the inner city, the Land Council, Metropolitan Land Council, La Perouse, and also, importantly, the wider community. I'll also open this circle because this is a circle of we're gathering here today. And I acknowledge all of you in this circle. I acknowledge the wisdom you bring, your experience, and your knowledge. Because acknowledgement is about creating connection. It's about building a relationship. A relationship that builds obligations between us to look after each other and to look after country. And this is the intent of acknowledgement. That intent comes from, again, the natural law, the rules that were set down by the messengers that come to our people that were sent by the great Creator. And we talk about that being so long ago, it's in the time of our creation. And in the time of our creation, we were placed in this land. The Gadigal people were placed in this land. And that's why it's important for me to recognize them, because the great Creator, Allah, put them here and gave them language. And my people, Gamaray and Radri people on the other side of the Blue Mountains, my mother's people, were placed there by the great Creator. And we were placed there to look after the land and to look after each other. So when I look at connectedness, the things that connect us, the framework of our traditional laws give us all the messages of how to engage with other people, to always be respectful, to always have a circle that is open, to acknowledge that everyone in the circle has a place and has gifts and strengths to share. And this is what we speak into our young people, the youth, in our youth programs. So we use the knowledge and wisdom of our ancestors to guide them. When I was a younger person, my elders guided me. And through the guidance of Allah, I met brothers at the gym trying to keep fit as young people do. And I met Muslims at the gym. And we started talking. They said, brother, we want to learn about Aboriginal culture. Talk to us about Aboriginal culture. And I said, yeah, well, teach me, brother. Teach me about, your beliefs in your culture. And the more we spoke, the more I seen similarities and connection. And the laws of the messages that come to our ancestors and the rules that set up our society, the rules that made us always submit ourselves to the rule of that natural law of the great Creator, was the same. What is a Muslim? Is a Muslim someone who submits himself to Allah? I'm not a scholar. I've only opened my ears and my heart to listen to others. So when I started to listen to the brothers, the more I found out that what they're teaching me is the same. So I went to the local masjid, to the mosque, and I said, brother, I want to become a Muslim. So, La ilaha illallah, I'll become a Muslim. But I wasn't a convert or a revert. It was a unification, because Islam was already here. The messengers that I learned that come to our people are the messengers that Allah sent to everyone. And in our way, they gave us the natural law sent by the great Creator. So I didn't see a conflict. So the intent in what we do is from the messages that we were given. So in the youth work that I do, we have the Marama Indigenous Youth Summit. We try to work on the guidance that is given to us from our ancestors and speak that into our young people. Because after over 230 years of British colonisation in this country, there's a lot of hurt. And we carry that from one generation to the next. So our young people carry historic intergenerational trauma. And it's all about healing. How do we heal our young people? My mother was forcibly removed from her mother. It's called the stolen generations. And the intent from the government at the time was good intent. We removed the Aboriginal children and we civilised them to be like us, because we are the best of the best. The British, you need to be like us. My grandmother, when she gave birth to my mother, she was forcibly sterilised, because that was in our best interest. My mother was separated from our Aboriginal family and she had a very hard life. And she worked all her life to bring us children back to our community. And at first, as a young person, being the youngest in my family, what did I see in our community? What did I see about being Aboriginal with my mother? I seen sorrow. I seen hurt. I seen the trauma carried from one generation to the next that manifests in me. So how do we stop that hurt? How do we heal? And when I went to train at the gym, see, I was boxing and training because I was an angry young person and I hated everyone. Because the hurt was festering in my heart. And there was no way, nobody had intervened to try to heal us. So I've seen a lot of conflict in my communities, I see a lot of hurt in my communities. And people say, what is wrong with Aboriginal people? Alcohol, drugs, you've got the worst statistics for education, you've got the worst housing, what is wrong with you? Why? And I learned to ask this question. Don't ask what is wrong with us. Ask what happened. What happened to us to turn people that followed those laws of natural law to look after the land, the creation that has been given, each other as a family, to always share and care, always include others, never leave anyone behind, always allow people to feel that they are worthy and they belong. Always allow people's voices to be shared and respect their voices and take the time to listen, because that, again, the acknowledgement is about bringing us together to connect. So from that to the present, what happened? What happened to us? Because when you start to understand what happened to us and what happened to ourselves, then we can understand how to heal. So for the youth program, we use the frame and the framework of all the values of our ancestors, of sharing, of caring, of inclusion, of respect, of walking in a good way, and we invest that in our young people. And we have our elders talking to our youth and empowering our youth and modeling what is good action. And then our high school students who we invest so much in, they then teach primary school students as leaders and mentors. So we have what they call the Indigenous Youth Summit. And the Indigenous Youth Summit invites primary schools of all different students, not just Aboriginal students, all different students to come in to learn about Aboriginal culture over 2 days. And our young people, our leaders, teach the primary school students about art, weaving, story, song, dance, and they act, and the way that they project themselves is through the values of our ancestors' good way. And by the end of the 2 days, thousands of primary schools come in and out. And nearly every one of those primary school students want to be Aboriginal at the end of the day. Because they've seen modelled a beautiful sense of leadership by these young people that are healing. They're healing through the strengths of our culture. And then I reflect on it and I think Allah sent messengers to all around the world. The prophets, peace be upon him, peace be upon all of them. And they model what good action is. So the biggest message we give to our young people is to remember one thing. Always act as a sovereign human being created by the great Creator. Be a critical thinker. Be reflective. Be a sovereign human being that thinks for themselves. That is always responsible for what comes out of your mouth. Be responsible for what you think and what you feel. And use that strength to make decisions in your life. And we will always challenged by decisions. Like at the present time, we're challenged by the voice. And I'm not going to say vote yes or no. My opinion is on my perspective on what I'm going to vote is not relevant. What is relevant is you think as sovereign human beings created by Allah, given a brain and a heart, have critical and reflective thinking, ask respectful questions, and if the actions don't follow the wisdom and the good action that have been modelled by our prophets in the past, then we know something's wrong. If they model the things that we believe in, of sharing, of caring, of including people, of bringing people along on the journey, of allowing them to have ownership and belonging of these things, then yes, that's a good thing. But you need to make your own decisions. Do you feel included? Do you feel you belong? Have you been brought on this journey? Has your voice been recognised? Do people have the patience and the time to allow you to participate? Or is it all government clocks? So again, out of this connection, if there's anything that I would request for you all to do is to always remember to be sovereign human beings created by Allah, to follow and model the good action of all the prophets, peace be upon them, and show that to our young people and let that decision, but those things act for your decision making. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Dr. Yahya, for those insightful words. I won't comment much because Minister Jihadi has to go to another engagement, so we've only got him literally for another couple of minutes. Without any further ado, I'd like to invite the Minister for Customer Service and Digital Government, Minister for Emergency Services, Minister for Youth Justice, Member for Bankstown, Honourable Jihadi MP.
Barakallah fi Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And like Dr. Yahya, I want to acknowledge we're on Gadigal land, and I make a point, not always of saying the traditional owners, they own the land. At the moment, it's not, and there is a way. I'm going to go another step further. I'm actually voting for the voice, and I encourage everyone to do it. And the reason I say that is because the doctor said it exactly in the words that we needed. Ask yourself about the importance of inclusion, the importance of having a voice, and the importance of being treated respectfully. Sheikh Habib Mohammed, ahlan wa sahlan, and welcome to Australia's oldest parliament. I stand here before you as the first Muslim MP elected here and the first Muslim minister. And alhamdulillah, that's something that makes me very, very proud. And I think it was the third day of Ramadan, it was in the middle of Ramadan. No, third day was the election, it was a bit after that. When I was standing in the governor's house and I was given, to take my oath. And I made sure that I took my card. Many of you have seen that photo. And it was our family one, and I stood there proudly. And at the time I said, this image and this incident builds on the work of others, but it sends a very, very important message about belonging and about the fact that anybody in this country can achieve, and they can only do it if they believe in themselves. So that was a really important thing. The next step, I want to say to our beloved Sheikh, our visiting Sheikh, it's about what we learn and the way we conduct ourselves. We've seen here with Sheikh Wissam with that great video that we could probably watch the next hour and a half. I won't tell anybody, I promise. The impact that Islam has had has always been, the best places has been by the way that people are being treated. And if you stick, and I remember Sheikh Ahmed once, talk about when a former Prime Minister was talking about a restoration, talk about a reformation. You actually said a restoration, and that stuck with me. Because the Islam that was taught and it was expected was about the behaviour, about the ethics, about the respect, and about the conduct, the decency, the honesty. Islam, in its best form, isn't forced. It's actually something that, as Dr. says, he's experienced and he wants to. And there are many similarities, of course, between First Nations Australians, Indigenous Australians, and Torres Strait Islander Australians, and the Muslim community. And I've had a great opportunity to learn so much about that. But those correlations relate to the same. And they relate to the same about people in general. I have to leave very soon. I'm going to ask you, and I won't wrap it up with this, but I'm going to probably ask you to make some dua because I'm meeting with a treasurer and I can't be late to that meeting. And I need your dua for this one because I need as much help as I can get. But the really important thing here is the people who are here and the symbol that it says. And I want to say a special thank you to people here who are not of the Muslim faith, who are here with us. Because a couple of days ago, I got to speak in the Parliament about a really important piece of legislation. And it's taken 20 years to get there. And I've been in Parliament for 8 years, and I've been talking about it. And it's about the protection of people for vilification. And we didn't have it for religious vilification. And in that speech, I said, I'm a confident, strong, thick-skinned person. I come to work every day and people are throwing arrows at me. You get used to it. But this legislation is about saying that we as a country say there's enough. It's about the person, the woman who wears a hijab, who gets effectively sworn at, ostracised, attacked. It's about the child who doesn't have the strength like we do. But it's also about people of different faiths. The person who wears a turban, who gets picked on. As I said in that speech, these laws and regulations aren't about a sword, but they're about a shield. And when I got a message last night from somebody that I know and I respect a lot, he wrote this really lovely message, and I said, if there's nothing else that I ever achieve in Parliament, the fact that we're able to work through this and keep pushing it is important because it makes a difference. And I want to sum up then with this final point, and it's about who we are as a country. We're only as good as the way we treat each other. We're only as good as the respect we show one another. We're only as good as the way that we accept our differences. But there's a lot more similarities than there are differences. And the similarities always comes down to a couple of things. Decency, integrity, and respect. And in the same way that I ask for respect, then I need to give respect. Because in this Parliament, I don't walk around saying, hey, look at me, I'm Jihad, I'm the first Muslim MP. On the contrary, I've earned my respect here by actually doing all of those things that my faith has taught me. All of those cultural things, all of those things that say, don't be afraid of who you are. And teach people through your actions, not by actually forcing things onto them and asking for anything special. I don't want special treatment. I never asked for halal food in the Parliament. But it's really nice that they actually thought about it. And I'm not going to make an issue of it. I'll do vegetarian, it's fine. Those are the things that we do. But in all life, whatever our faith is, whatever it may be, if we treat everyone with respect and we understand one another and we take the time to listen and to learn about each other, maybe, just maybe, we can actually all be together and we can create the best society possible. Because there are a lot of people there who look to divide societies. We together have to be the people that unite societies. And I want to finish off by acknowledging, of course, the Mufti Dr. Muhammad, who's always ever lovely to see you here. Our overseas guests, of course, Sheikh Habib Muhammad, Sheikh Ahmed Abdo. I saw also Councillor Khadra Sudah, former Deputy Mayor. I see Ali, there's a lot of people. But I wanted to leave my last congratulations and thanks to, I'll call her Auntie Hajia Maha, who for 45 years has been absolutely instrumental. When I talk about the positions that we find ourselves in, that only happens because of the work of our elders. That only happens because of the path that they laid. And it only happens because of the work that they've done to help us get to where we are. Haji Maha, when I talk about the way that people are treated with dignity and respect, and they're revered, in this Parliament, Haji Maha is revered, not by me, but by everyone who's had dealings with her, because she conducts herself with that grace, with that dignity, and with that adab and akhlaq that we are taught always. So I'm also going to acknowledge Haji and Nadia Saleh as well. I do apologise that I have to leave, but inshallah, you've all made plenty of dua for me. I'm going to go and see the Treasurer. I'm going to have 2 meetings with him. The first one is to be a good one. The second one, as they say in that movie, he's got to show me the money. So I want to say, Assalamu alaikum. We'll see you again. Thanks to our non-Muslim brothers and sisters who are here today, including you, Chris. I think I can see without my glasses there. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
And I think this is a gift from Habib Muhammad. Maybe if we want to get Habib Muhammad and Jihad, just have a quick photo with the gift there at the front. It's a gift from Habib Muhammad all the way from Yemen. Some symbolic gifts and exchanges. That's some traditional Yemeni honey that got through customs safely 2 days ago. We declared it as well. We did, just so the visa wasn't rejected. So we thank Minister Deeb for the time that he's graciously also given this afternoon, and his sponsoring of this event to be held today. With that, I'd like to now invite our keynote speaker this afternoon, and that is the Dean of the Faculty of Dawah in Dar al-Mustafa Islamic Seminary for Islamic Sciences in Tarim in Yemen, the Sheikh Habib Muhammad bin Abdullah bin Ali al-Aydarus, who will be speaking on Islam's honouring Indigenous people and the covenants and treaties entered into by the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him.
بسم الله ما شاء الله لا قوة إلا بالله. الحمد لله على هذه السويعة التي نبيها نحن وإياكم نتذكر فيها أصل وجودنا في هذا الوجود.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, praise and gratitude to Allah that He has allowed us here in these precious moments to remind ourselves of the noble objective upon which Allah has placed us on this earth.
لا ننسى أولا أن نقدم الشكر لمن قام بترتيب هذا اللقاء، وما سمعنا من كلام دكتورنا إبراهيم حفظه الله تعالى وكلام الدكتور يحيى وكلام الوزير جهاد والأخ وسام حفظه الله تعالى، ما سمعنا من هذه المقدمات توصل إلى فكرنا أننا أمام مهمة عظيمة.
And I would also like to acknowledge and show gratitude to His Eminence, Dr. Ibrahim, for his wise and noble words and the brilliant insights of our brother Dr. Yahya, as well as Minister Deeb, and our brother Sheikh Wissam, for all of these amazing reflections and showing us that in fact we are now in a position where there is something great ahead of us.
المهم أن ندرك أننا في هذا الوجود لم نوجد عبثا.
The realization is that we have not been placed in this existence without reason.
بل نحن جئنا من مكان وسنذهب إلى مكان.
Rather, we came from a place and we are going to a place.
ولو رأيت شخصا راكبا على قطار أو حافلة وكان نائما ثم استيقظ ثم سألته من أين جئت وإلى أين ستذهب، فإن قال لا أدري فهذا أشبه بالمجنون. كيف لا يدري؟ أنت ما الذي جاء بك إلى هذه الحافلة؟ وأين ستأخذك هذه الحافلة؟ فلا بد إذن أن توقن أنك لم تأتي صدفة، إنما ركبت وكونت تكوينا من صاحب قدرة عظيمة ثم يردك بعد ذلك إليه.
And for example, we give the analogy of a person who found themselves on a means of transport, a caravan, a train or a bus, and was asleep during the journey, and then they awoke. When they wake up and someone asks them, where are you headed? Where did you come from? If they were to say, I don't know, then this is in fact unacceptable, because they're actually on a journey and they're on a mount or they're in a vehicle. So these are essential questions that any human being needs to ask themselves. We're here, but where did we come from and what will be our destination?
هذه هي القضية الأصلية.
This is the primary issue.
ثم بقية القضايا كلها فرعا عن هذه القضية.
And the rest of the issues are then secondary to this primary one.
ومنها ما اجتمعنا لأجله في هذه السويعة هي قضية الأرض.
And one major issue that we have gathered here today about is in fact the issue of the land itself.
على الحقيقة أن الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء من عباده.
In reality, the earth belongs to Allah, to God, and He will grant it to whomsoever He wills amongst His creation.
فإذا جعل الله تعالى صنفا من خلقه في أرض معينة فلهم الحق الإلهي أن يقوموا بعمارات هذه الأرض على ما أراد الله تعالى ولهم بعد ذلك حقوقا وعليهم واجبات.
And if a people find themselves in any particular land on earth, then they have been designated by God to fulfill the rights and obligations of that land and towards the people that surround them.
علمنا ديننا أن لصاحب الحق مقالة. في الحديث الصحيح عن النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن لصاحب الحق مقالة.
And in the prophetic sayings, the Messenger Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be upon him, says that a person who has a right for a certain matter also is in a due position to voice that right.
فإن الحق لصاحبه وإن كان صاحب هذا الحق ظالما أو معاديا لكن لابد أن نؤدي له حقه.
And it doesn't matter whether a person is oppressing or is unjust, we also need to ensure that we are fulfilling everyone's rightful rights and duties towards them.
فكيف إذا لم يرتكب ظلما أصلا؟
How about if that person did not undertake an unjust or an oppressive act? We should even be more ready to fulfill their rights.
من أعظم الميزات التي ميز الله تعالى بها أنبياءه الأمانة.
One of the overarching qualities that distinguishes prophets from other human beings is that Allah granted them this amazing attribute and quality of responsibility and trust.
من القواعد والقوانين المهمة التي وضعها النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم في قوله أدي أمانة من ائتمنك ولا تخن من خانك.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, says, fulfill the trust to the one that has entrusted you with that responsibility. And if someone betrays the trust towards you, then do not do the same in return.
وتجسد هذا القانون القولي في حياته عليه الصلاة والسلام فعلا.
And this reality became real and manifest in the life of the Prophet Muhammad.
تعلمون أن النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم عاش في موطنين.
You know perhaps that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be upon him, lived in two different cities.
المرحلة المكية التي كان مضطهدا فيها وأصحابه من قبل الأعداء، وهم هؤلاء الأعداء الذين كانوا لا يستأمنون على أماناتهم إلا عند النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
The initial phase of the prophethood in the city of Mecca, where he was persecuted, oppressed, and treated unjustly, those same people who persecuted him and his community were the ones that came to the realization that if they had a piece of material that was valuable, that there would be no one that they could entrust this property or this deposit with other than the most trustworthy of men, that was Muhammad.
لما خرج قهر من مكة لم ينسى لأهل الأمانات أماناتهم، فأبقى ابن عمه علي بن أبي طالب في مكة حتى يؤدي لأهل هذه الأمانات أماناتهم، وهم هؤلاء الذين أرادوا أن يقتلوه، ولكن لم ينسى هذا العهد لأنه نبي من عند الله سبحانه وتعالى، لا يمشي بهواء ولا يمشي بقوانين أرضية، وإنما هو نبي أرسله الله تعالى قدوة لبقية البشرية.
And when the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be upon him, commenced the migration from the city of Mecca, where he was persecuted, to the city of Medina, which ended up receiving him openly, he ensured that those safety deposits that remained with him from those who persecuted him in Mecca were returned to their rightful owners, and so therefore he commissioned his own member of his own family by the name of Ali bin Abi Talib, his own cousin, to remain in the city of Mecca and restore the rights that had been entrusted to him back to those who in fact persecuted him.
ثم لما وصل إلى مدينة الأنصار وكان يعيش فيها قوما ليسوا بأهله، لكنهم استقبلوه محبة وتعظيما وتكريما، وهو قابلهم عليه الصلاة والسلام بهذه المشاعر، مشاعر المحبة، حتى صار كأنه من هذه البلدة التي انتقل إليها، وكانوا يتشاركون في مهماتهم ويتعارفون فيما بينهم حتى حصل بينهم هذا الامتزاج.
And upon the migration of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be upon him, to the city of those who assisted and supported him, known as the Ansar, even though they weren't from his family or from his tribe, he ensured that he created strong bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood within the community, such that he then appeared to be as though he was from amongst them.
ثم قامت العهود بعد ذلك على وجوب الوفاء بها، سواء كانت مع من يوافقك أو كانت مع من يخالفك.
And after that, the prophetic covenants were entered into such that even those who were in disagreement with him and his community, there were covenants and agreements that were entered into respectfully.
حيث يمتثلون أمر الله سبحانه وتعالى في قوله وأوفوا بالعهد إن العهد كان مسؤولا.
Such that there is a fulfillment of the divine injunction in the Quran where God says, and fulfill the covenant, for indeed the covenant will be one matter which you will be questioned regarding.
وقوله تعالى وأوفوا بعهد الله إذا عاهدتم ولا تنقضوا الإيمان بعد توكيدها.
And in another verse, and do not break the trust or covenant after you have given your word, and do not turn away from faith.
وقد جعلتم الله عليكم كفيلا فنعلم أن كل عهد يبرم بين أي جماعة أن الكفيل على هذا العهد والمتابع له هو الذي خلق هذه البشرية.
And our belief is that any covenant that beings enter into mutually, the one who oversees and witnesses that covenant is in fact the one who created all human beings on earth.
وكان من دواعي ضعف الإيمان عند الإنسان أنه إذا حدث كذب، وإذا عاهد غدر، وإذا اؤتمن خان. هذه كلها مناقضة للدين، فالدين إذن قائم على صدق المعاهدة وعلى الأمانة وعلى إعطاء كل ذي حق حقه.
And the religion of Islam is established upon a person fulfilling the covenant, because the sign of someone who is weak in faith, if it becomes apparent that when they speak they lie, or when they enter into a covenant they break it, or if they're entrusted with a matter they betray that trust. This is contrary to faith.
فهذه الشعوب المغلوبة على نفسها بسبب تسلط أحد من الخلق لا بد أن تعطى حقها حتى يقوموا بحياتهم الطبيعية التي يعيشون عليها، لكون كل أمة في هذا الوجود كان لها تاريخ قديم من حياة أبينا آدم إلى هذا الزمان، كل أمة لها تاريخها.
And every civilization in history has its own history. And this is something that is quite apparent throughout all ages.
فالإلغاء هذا ليس في الإسلام.
And if there is a people who have been treated unjustly by any power or any peoples or governments or nations, then this is something that cannot be ignored or not discussed or shunned away, but rather it's something that must be addressed.
لأن مساحة المعيشة واسعة.
Because the arena of mutual interaction is wide.
وتضيق مساحة المعيشة إذا ضاقت العقول.
However, that vastness in our human interactions becomes constrained if our minds become closed.
والعقول هذه لا تتسع إلا بنور الإيمان.
And these human intellects will only expand if they are aided by the light of faith.
لما جاء نصارى نجران إلى مسجد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في المدينة وحضرت صلاتهم وهو يعلم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن هذا الدين قد تلعب به، لكن سمح لهم أن يصلوا في جهة من مسجده ليقوموا هذه الشعائر.
We have a story from the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be upon him, where he was visited by a delegation of religious people from the land of the Christians in Najran. And when they came to visit him in his city of Medina, and they entered the mosque and the masjid of the Prophet, and the time for their due prayer entered, he vacated a space and assigned them a spot within his own mosque for them to offer their devotional prayer, even though they were Christian.
لأنه رحمة بكافة الناس كما قال الله تعالى وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين، لم يقل وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للمسلمين، هو رحمة لكل واحد من الخلق سواء كان مؤمنا أو لم يؤمن به.
And the reason being, he was sent as a mercy to all the universe, as God says in the Quran regarding the mission of the Prophet Muhammad. We have sent you as a means of mercy to all of the universe, not just to the believers or to the Muslims.
ثم قال له ما أرسلناك إلا كافة للناس بشيرا ونذيرا، فهو لكل إنسان قدوة يمكن أن يأخذ من حياة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم سبيلا وطريقا لأن يعيش فيه.
And he also says regarding him, and he was sent to all of humanity in its entirety as a bringer of glad tidings and as a warner. So therefore he is not only an example for those who believe in him, but also for all of humanity, such that they take his stances and his attributes as a means of inspiration.
فجميع مشاكل العالم إذن من يحلها؟ يحلها الأسلوب الذي عاش عليه محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
So if we glance to the contemporary problems that plague human society in this world today, what is it that is going to provide the way out and the solution? We say the way that the Prophet Muhammad solved the problems within society back then will also solve them today.
كنا في محاضرة في تايلاند جمعوا لنا الجيش التايلاندي هم غير مسلمين.
In one of my previous visits, I was in Thailand. And in Thailand, they gathered for us the members of the Thai army, and they were not Muslim.
فذكروا لنا عددا من المشاكل التي يعانون منها.
And they presented one of the contemporary problems they were facing over there.
فقلنا لهم مقالة ذلك الرجل غير المسلم في بيان أن الحلول عند النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
And so he said, I mentioned that there was one person who wasn't Muslim that in fact said, well, the solution is the way of the Prophet Muhammad.
قال ذلك الرجل أن جميع مشاكل العالم يمكن أن يحلها محمد في مدة أن تشرب كأسا من الشاي.
And that statement was by a person who wasn't Muslim, that he repeated that time to those members of the Thai army, that the current world problems today would be able to be solved just by Muhammad, peace be upon him, the duration of time that it takes to drink a cup of coffee or tea.
فذكرنا لهم شيئا من أقواله عليه الصلاة والسلام الحكمة التي كساه الله تعالى بها، فوجدوا أن هذا الكلام عجيب يمكن هم يستفيدون منه كذلك فيأخذون هذا الكلام.
And so there were some of the prophetic wisdoms that were mentioned in that space, and they found that in fact, yes, we can benefit from those wise words of the Prophet Muhammad for our problems.
هناك معاهدات كثيرة أقامها النبي صلى الله عليه وآله مع غير المسلمين.
There were numerous covenants that the Prophet Muhammad entered into with neighboring people who were not Muslim.
والتزم بها.
And he fulfilled them.
وغلب عليها الرحمة.
And he ensured that mercy and compassion were overarching qualities that manifested in those engagements.
حتى لو خانوا في عهودهم.
Even if they betrayed those covenants.
فكان الغالب من قوله.
So he used to say,
اللهم اهد قومي فإنهم لا يعلمون.
More often than not, O God, guide my people, for indeed they know not.
اللهم اغفر لقومي فإنهم لا يعلمون.
He would also say often, O God, forgive my people, for indeed they do not know.
هو يؤذى ويعذب وله الإذن من الله تعالى أن ينتقم من هؤلاء القوم، لكن قال لم أبعث بالنقمة وإنما بعثت بالرحمة.
And despite him being persecuted and treated unjustly by his own people, and he had the license from God to just say to God to destroy them, but he would bring his mercy and he would ask God's forgiveness for them through his compassion.
ثم حمل هذه الرحمة من جاء بعده.
And those that succeeded him, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, subsequent generations carried that mercy.
فما بقعة في هذه الأرض إلا وقد وصلها دين رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم.
And there's no corner on earth except that this religion of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, it has reached.
كانوا يحملون معهم مفاتيح التأثير على الناس.
They used to hold with them the keys to influencing the hearts of people.
مفاتيح التأثير على الناس ليست بالقوة.
The means of influencing people is not through force or coercion.
ولا بالمال.
Nor is it through wealth.
ولا بالضغط.
Nor is it by imposing upon others.
ولا بالجاه.
Nor is it through a person's honor.
مفاتيح التأثير هي رحمة.
The keys to change is mercy.
ولكم المثال كما رأينا في معرض الأخ وسام حفظه الله تعالى صورة هذه البلد إندونيسيا.
And we see, for example, as we saw, our brother Wisan showed us the video of our brothers in Indonesia.
إندونيسيا هذه قد دخلها الإسلام في أول عصر النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
In Indonesia, in the early centuries after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Islam had entered this land.
لكن انتشر فيها الإسلام قبل 700 سنة من الآن.
However, Islam only began to more rapidly spread in those lands about 700 years ago.
وسبب ذلك أن الحاملين لهذه الرحمة.
And the reason for this was those who carried this mercy
من بلدنا من حضرموت.
from our land, in the land of Valley of Hadramaut.
من ذرية سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
And those very people were from the very descendants and offspring of the Prophet Muhammad.
سافروا إلى هذه البلاد.
They traveled to these lands.
لم يقصدوا استعمارها.
They did not seek to colonize them.
ولم يقصدوا استذلال شعوبها.
Nor did they seek to take advantage of those people.
ولم يقصدوا سرقة خيراتها.
Nor did they seek to usurp the natural minerals and assets of those lands.
كانوا يحملون هما واحدا.
But they held one concern.
أن يقول الجميع لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله.
That all people would say there is no God save Allah, Muhammad the Messenger of God.
حتى كما جمعهم الله في هذه الدنيا أن يجمعوا بعد ذلك في جنة الخلد.
And as Allah has gathered them in this world, that Allah also reunite them in the eternal paradise.
هذا همهم.
That was in fact their concern.
وهذا شغلهم.
That was their occupation.
وعاشوا لأجل ذلك.
And that's what they lived for.
لما وصلوا إلى الهند في أول مراحله.
When they reached the lands of India,
ودخل الناس في دين الله.
and people entered into Islam,
لم يطالبوا أن يكونوا رؤساء.
they did not ask to be kings,
ولا حكاما.
nor rulers.
بل كانوا يبذلون أموالهم وما معهم للآخرين.
Rather, they would spend from their own wealth for the betterment of others.
انتقلوا من الهند.
They moved from India,
ولم تقتل نفس واحدة.
and not one human being was killed,
ولم يشرد واحد.
and no person was kicked out of home,
ولم يؤذى واحد.
and no one was harmed.
بل تنور الكل.
but rather all became enlightened.
ثم انتقلوا بعد ذلك إلى الفلبين
And then they went to the Philippines.
وفعلوا ما فعلوا في الهند.
And they did the same as they did in India.
ثم انتقلوا بعد ذلك إلى جزيرة جاوا.
And then they went to the land of Java, the island.
وصلوا إلى أندونيسيا.
They came therefore to Indonesia.
فرحب بهم الناس
And the people welcomed them.
وأحبوهم
They loved them.
وامتزجوا معهم.
And they connected with them.
ودخل الناس في دين الله أفواجا.
And people entered through by waves into the religion of Islam.
فكم قتلوا؟
How many did they kill there?
ومن شردوا؟
And who did they kick out of their homes?
هذه هي رسالة محمد صلى الله عليه
This
وسلم
was the message of Muhammad, peace be upon him,
التي ينبغي أن يقوم كل واحد منا تعظيما لهذه الشخصية العظيمة.
which every one of us should actually stand in reverence towards this great persona.
فلن تجد في هذا العالم شخص مؤثر كمحمد.
We will not find anyone in this world that has greater influence than Muhammad.
مر بهذه الأرض شخصيات كثيرة.
Many personalities passed in past generations.
بل بعضهم ملك الأرض من أطرافها إلى أطرافها.
Some people owned the east and the west of the earth,
كالنمرود بن كنعان
such as Namrud, the son of Canaan,
وكفرعون.
and also like a pharaoh.
لكن لم يذكروا الآن.
But they're not mentioned now.
وأن ذكروا بسوء.
If they are mentioned, it is in evil.
لكن محمد لم يملك أرضا.
But Muhammad did not possess any land,
ولم يستعمر شعبا.
nor did he colonize any nation.
لماذا؟
Why?
لأنه نبي.
Because he is a prophet.
وهكذا يختلف الناس على حسب مراتبهم.
And this is how people differ depending on their degrees.
فنسأل الله تعالى
So we ask God,
في هذه السويعة التي اجتمعنا فيها
in this moment which we are gathered,
أن يحقق
to realize
لكل من أراد له مطلبا حقا
anyone that has a need,
أن يقضي له حقه.
we ask God to fulfill that need for them.
وينبغي لنا
We should therefore
أن نتعرف
to know
على شخصية محمد.
about the personality of Muhammad.
فستجد لك حلا في شخصيته
And through his personality, you will find a solution for your problem
وفي سيرته.
and in his life.
كل ما نحتاج إليه حتى في مشاكلنا الأسرية داخل البيوت
Even in our family problems inside our houses
وفي مشاكلنا الخارجية
and outside our homes,
بل وفي نفسياتنا
even in our own selves,
ستجد أن هناك حلولا كثيرة.
we'll find that there are many solutions.
علمنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم
Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us these solutions.
عند وجود الاكتئاب
When we have difficulties,
والهم والغم
grief, concern, stress,
والضيق
and depression,
أن نذكر الله تعالى
that we mention God,
أن نقول الله
that we say this name of Allah, God.
فيحصل بذلك طمأنينة كبيرة.
With this, we find contentment and tranquility.
كانت هناك طبيبة ألمانية
There used to be a German doctor.
طبيبة نفس
She was a psychologist.
جاءت تدرس عندنا في تهيم
She came to study in our city of Tahim,
وهي تعالج نفسيات الناس.
and she used to, in fact, help people psychologically.
فقالت ما هو أنجع وأنفع علاج للجوانب النفسية.
So she said, what is the most appropriate and effective treatment for psychological sicknesses or
وقلت لها
difficulties?
لفظ الجلالة الله.
So he says to repeat the name of God, Allah,
لأنه لا شيء يسمى في هذا الوجود الله إلا الله.
because there is none in existence with the name Allah other than God.
كما قال تعالى هل تعلم له سمية ليس أحد يسمى في هذا الوجود الله إلا الله الحق.
Because as Allah says in the Quran, is there anyone else with this name? No, it is only God.
فقالت هل يمكن أعطي هذا الاسم أحد من غير المسلمين؟
So she asked, can I prescribe this name of God, Allah, to anyone that even if they're not Muslim that come to my practice seeking support,
حتى يتعالج؟
so that they can seek treatment?
فقلت لها نعم إذا رغب في ذلك.
So I said yes, if they want to.
فأخبرتني بعد وقت
So after a period of time, she said to me
أن كثيرا من الناس
that many people
من غير
that
المسلمين
were not Muslim,
ذهبت الأمراض النفسية من غير حقن ومن غير حبوب.
without taking any pills or any needles, all of their mental, their psychological difficulties became taken away and removed because of this treatment.
بلفظ الجلالة الله.
With the name of God, Allah, that they repeated.
حتى رغب الكثير من الناس أن يدخلوا في هذا الدين لما رأوا هذا التأثير العظيم.
So when people saw this positive impact on their own spiritual well-being they had intention or desire to enter the religion.
لكون هذا التأثير ليس في السبب، التأثير في المسبب الذي خلق هذا السبب.
Because the change didn't occur because of the means, but rather the one who created the means, and that is
فيا أهل هذه القضية
So, oh people of this issue,
التي تجتمعون من أجلها،
which you have come together regarding,
اعلموا أنكم إذا صدقتم مع الله تعالى
know that if you're true to Allah,
فإن الله سيعطيكم مطلبكم
Allah will grant you your desire,
وأن تنالوا ما تريدون.
and you will gain that which you seek.
ولكن الأمر يرجع إلى الحكمة.
But you must also be wise,
حتى تبقى هذه الأرض على السلام التي هي عليه.
such that this land can continue in the peace that God created it for.
فبارك الله في اجتماعنا.
May Allah bless our gathering.
وجزا الله المرتبة الحاجة مها حفظها الله تعالى خير الجزاء.
May Allah reward the greatest reward to Hajj Maha for organizing this event.
والأستاذ أحمد عبده وكل من قام بهذا الترتيب.
And everyone else that had a part to play in contributing to this event.
ونود أن يتكرر مثل هذا اللقاء بإذن الله تعالى.
And we hope that events like this can continuously be organized.
ونحن نقدم لكم الحاضرين وكل من اتصل بكم دعوة أن تزورونا في بلادنا ونكون بإذن الله سندا للعدل في هذه الأرض نحن وإياكم.
And I extend an official and formal invitation to everyone here that is present to come and visit our lands, and that will be a means for us to work together in bringing justice to the world.
أسأل الله تعالى في هذه الساعة
I ask God in this moment
أن يتقبل منا ومنكم
to accept from me and from you,
وأن يبلغنا وإياكم مقاصدنا
and to allow us to realize our dreams,
وأن يحيينا وإياكم في هذه الدنيا كما أراد
and to revive us in this world as He seeks,
وأن يتوفانا على ما أراد
and to allow us to pass this world in the way that
وأن
He is
يمن
pleased,
علينا بإظهار هذه الحقيقة
and to allow us to be people who manifest this reality,
حتى نسعى لنيلها
such that we can seek to acquire it,
ولا نخرج من هذه الدنيا
and that we not exit this world
إلا بأنوار لا إله إلا الله
except we have the lights of La ilaha illallah,
لأن الأرض الحقيقية هي الجنة
because the true land is in fact the garden of paradise,
أخرجنا إلى هذه الأرض
and we came to this world.
فهي كالمنفى وليست أرض حقيقية.
It is not a true world.
ومن هنا قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حب الوطن من الإيمان أي الجنة.
And as the Prophet ﷺ said, the love of the person's homeland is from faith, meaning paradise.
وفقنا الله تعالى وإياكم بما يحبه ويرضاه وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
And all praise is due to God, and praise and salutations be upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we would like to express our appreciation for the keynote address by Habib Muhammad al-Aydarus, those words that took us on a journey throughout history and throughout the land today in the world, connecting the dots and filling in the missing links in order for us to understand our role here in this land. And with that, I would like to ask our concluding speaker to come forward, the CEO of Muslim Women Australia and the one who was instrumental in bringing the various elements of today together to give a vote of thanks and acknowledgements as well. Hajj Maha.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you. There's not much to say, really, after listening conversation and the words from the heart to the heart. It is what makes us. It is a transformative way of moving forward. But in organising this, I think it's our duty. We have a duty of care to this land that's welcomed us. We are all people of the same. We've been created from the same. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we created you from nations and tribes that make you, to be with each other and to care with each other. And how do we do that? It's in action. SubhanAllah, years ago when I grew up in this country, no one taught me this. But it comes from inside. It comes from the parents, from the family that comes from all the lands of Lebanon to here. And while we're here, we are here with a purpose. And the purpose is Abudiyya, Na'budullah ka'annana nara. We worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if we see Him. when we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything we do, then everything we say, everything we do manifests in a transformative way. And transformative way is about clearing our hearts, connecting our hearts together. It's not just in words, it's in our action and interaction with one another, especially when some things don't go right, don't go our way. And sincerely want to appreciate and thank everyone that's accepted our invitation that came just yesterday, as this was really a quick event that I felt it was important to organise for my sisters and brothers from our Indigenous community, and acknowledging my beautiful sister here, Charlene. Thank you so much for being here. We've walked the path, we understand, we're here, we're listening, and we need to listen more. And acknowledging my mentor and guide, Dr. Ibrahim Muhammad. Without his words 23 years ago, I think I would have left this community. But his words and his guidance about women and women's role in Islam was something out of this world. And it continues to be when he reminds me continuously of what our Prophet, peace be upon him, and what he did with his wives and companions. So therefore, and we acknowledge our visitor, Habib Muhammad, whom I've had the pleasure and the honour of visiting the land of Tarim just early this year and sitting with the amazing women scholars and men, of course. But women drive, and we drive things in a very sincere way. But at the same time, the work that we do, we work together as men and women, and men and women complement each other. And sincerely acknowledge that our minister, Jihad, did with his name is Jihad. It's a struggle. I remember the first time we talked about it, I've known Jihad since he was a very young man, and his name always used to make people turn their heads because his name really brings attention to him and continues to do that. And when we worked and he says, to keep his name is keeping his dignity. And that way, it's reciprocated again. And all we are here, inshallah, to do when we walk away from here is, and before I forget, acknowledging my beautiful Sheikh Wissam as well. They're all my sons, they're all my children here. I can say that I'm an elder, and it feels really powerful to be an elder. Coming into Parliament House here about 39 years ago, I was one of those young women. Now I feel like I'm one of those older women that I used to admire. And hopefully we'll do things differently. We walk together, we walk with the elders of our Indigenous community, together holding hands, even though we may be different. But we listen to our differences with respect, dignity, and never forget our kind heart that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with. Thank you so much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace with you.
Hajj Ahmed, for your kind words and insights and wisdom, and for bringing the various elements of today together. And to conclude, I'd like to ask Habib Muhammad or His Eminence the Grand Mufti to close with dua for this gathering in the customary way that gatherings are closed within the Muslim tradition, and then people can either pray Asr for those who need to pray Asr outside before heading back to wherever you need to be, work, home, or elsewhere.
تقبل الله منا ومنكم وعفى الله عنا وعنكم. بارك الله لنا ولكم في هذه الساعة، جعلها من أبرك الساعات علينا. نسأل الله تعالى أن ينزل على قلوبنا في هذه الساعة الطمأنينة، أن يأمر أجسادنا بالطاعة والعافية، وقلوبنا بالمعرفة، وأرواحنا بالمحبة، وأسرارنا بالمراقبة. اللهم بارك لنا في اجتماعنا واجعله مقبولا لديك يا أرحم الراحمين. اشرح صدورنا بالإسلام، نور عقولنا بالإسلام والإيمان، اجعلنا من خواص عبادك الصالحين. اللهم أمد جميع الحاضرين بالعافية والتأييد والقوة، بلغهم مرادك فيهم يا أرحم الراحمين، وبلغنا مرادنا في أنفسنا وفي أهلنا وأخواننا وأصحابنا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا حاجة إلا قضيتها. اللهم أصلح شؤوننا ما أصلحت به شؤون عبادك الصالحين في خير وعطاء وعافية بلا تمات يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أنا نبات نعمتك فلا تجعلنا حصاد نعمتك. اللهم وفقنا كما وفقت الأوائل، وخذ بأيدينا إلى ما تحب وترضى، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم، والحمد لله.
جزاك الله خير مولانا، شكر الله لك، الله يحفظك ويبارك فيك. تفضل اشرح.
Yeah, just make sure we take everything that we have, so we don't leave any of our belongings behind. And the program for Habib Muhammad al-Aydarus will continue. Today is his first day here. It's already been a packed day. Tonight he'll be at Condor Park Mosque, Eldridge Road, also known as al-Aydarus, from 7 p.m. He'll have an engagement there. All are welcome to attend. He's got after dawn or Fajr lessons every morning at 6 a.m. Also at that same location in Condor Park. Tonight's Thursday, isn't it? Yeah, tomorrow night will be, tomorrow he's got a sermon. He'll be delivering the Friday sermon, which is the weekly religious gathering for Muslims at one of the oldest mosques in Sydney, and that is Masjid Ali bin Abi Talib in Lakemba. Tomorrow night he'll be at Al Institute in Regent's Park. All are welcome at 7 p.m. Tomorrow during the day he'll be giving an intensive course, knowledge retreat, out at another mosque in Cabramatta, Uthman bin Affan Mosque, Water Street, Cabramatta, from 10 a.m. till 3:30 p.m. Well, he will be in fact teaching from his own book, and that is a book on the inward code of honour, known as chivalry or knighthood in some other traditions, something that is part and parcel of the tradition that he comes from. So you're all invited to those events, and thank you for coming. And tomorrow morning is... Oh yes, of course. How can I forget? I've got in big trouble. Of course, a women's only event that will be held at 10 a.m. At the Muslim Women Australia head office, Wanji Road, Lakemba. I even know the number, 47 Wanji Road, Lakemba, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. That's women only, so you'll be able to listen to some of the insights on some of the more contemporary women's issues and ask you questions as well. And I imagine that's open to women of all faith, even no faith. Yeah, thank you. Assalamu alaikum.